Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking the Doctor Who episode, The Girl Who Died. And while there are a lot of moments in this episode to like, this is another one of those new Who episodes that has nice moments, but the actual overall story is fairly weak. So let's just kind of get right into things, and let's talk about the good stuff first. To begin with, there are some really nice nods to Doctor Who continuity. We get to see the 12th Doctor break out a 2,000-year diary, a little bit of a nod to when the second Doctor was shown fooling around with a 500-year diary. We also get to see a nod to the third Doctor, where the Doctor talks about reversing the polarity of the neutron flow, which was kind of one of the third Doctor's catchphrases. And here, the 12th Doctor basically says, like, yeah, it sounds cool, but it really is just nonsense. Which is something that Doctor Who fans have kind of suspected for a really long time. There was some really cool stuff in reference, of course, to the Seventh Doctor. The Seventh Doctor had previously sort of used making ripples as an example of why you have to be careful when you're screwing around with time. And he even said, one of my dragging. He even said, word for word, my absolute favorite quote from the Seventh Doctor, which is, "Time will tell, it always does." And of course, we got to see, even briefly, a little visual cameo of the 10th Doctor and Donna Noble. And this is actually one of the moments in the episode that I thought was a little disappointing, simply because the idea that when he regenerated, the Doctor took the face of Cloecilius, the man from ancient Rome, to remind himself to be a good man, that he could, sort of do that the Doctor wasn't a slave to history, that he could go out there and make those changes to help people. The real Doctor even really kind of gives that big thunderous, "I'm the Doctor, and I save people." And, Cloecilius was a good guy. Donna convinced him to go back and save him from Pompeii, along with his family, even though the Doctor sort of was like, well, they're doomed by history. And the Doctor, oddly enough, even tries a little bit of this on Claire. It's like, to you, these people have all been dead for hundreds of years. Why are you so intent on saving them? Which, oddly enough, sounds kind of like some of the stuff the Reverse Flash talked about over on The Flash, but that's neither here nor there at the moment. And the reason this is disappointing is because, from what I can tell, this is basically kind of what the majority of fans had really kind of thought. That was basically the number one theory among fans from what I've observed. And while it's nice to be proven right, duh. It was certainly it was a nice character moment, but it's just like, well, thanks, but we already kind of pretty much figured that out. This doesn't really seem like a huge shock. It's sort of like the Doctor just realized something that the audience had figured out ages ago. And that's disappointing. Now, there was also some genuinely good comedy. We start things off at the beginning of this episode with a really crazy situation that's quite hilarious, and just kind of reminds you that Peter Capaldi does comedy really well. And Janice Coleman is definitely no slouch in that area as well. The whole stuff with the Doctor trying to train the villagers and them being so bad at it, they actually set the village on fire. That whole line of, "What are you going to do, raise crops at them? If necessary." The Doctor breaking out, failing hilariously to pretend to be Odin. Just a lot of really, really good moments here, and you can't really complain too much about anything that references Benny Hill. That's some classic British comedy there. And of course, the real major draw to this episode is, of course, Maisie Williams from Game of Thrones, guest starring here and in the next episode. And that's great. Arya is one of my absolute favorite Game of Thrones / Song of Ice and Fire characters. So I was totally pumped to see her on the show, and she does a great performance. Although they basically said, okay, Maisie, we need to basically act like Sam, and then we'll give you a few moments where you get to act like Arya. Okay? Yeah, okay. And that's what we get. Ozhilder, I think that's how you say her name. I mean, she really does sort of in a lot of ways remind me of Sam from Game of Thrones. Now, of course, when she's out there screaming at the leader of the Mire, who's pretending to be Odin, like, yeah, we're totally gonna kick your ass. I mean, Arya herself would have been proud of that one. But this really does sort of feel like, hey, let's have some fun. And by the way, here are some episodes with Maisie Williams in them. Well, I mean, that's great. I'm thrilled to see Maisie Williams on Doctor Who, but you got to give me something more than that. I mean, these aliens, the Mire, they're dumb. I mean, they look kind of cool in that armor. It's all very. It's got a little bit of a steampunk vibe to it, and the actual aliens underneath, they sure do look creepy and all. And it was certainly interesting. It was definitely a fun moment where Clara almost reasoned with them to just walk away, and then the things went to hell because of a mouthy teenager. I mean, that's good, but seriously, they get defeated like this? Okay, apparently these aliens have never thought of the possibility of a cyber attack. And two, somehow these guys in this little Scandinavian Viking village got their hands on electric eels, even though electric eels actually come from South America. Oh yeah, and of course you have to it's a little hard not to point out, like, no, Vikings didn't actually wear those stupid ass helmets with the big horns. I mean, I know we're not. I'm taking these little details a little bit more seriously than I should, but still, it's like, come on, Doctor Who, you can do better with your writing than this. And especially with when you have what's actually a really interesting situation with the Mire. They're harvesting testosterone and adrenaline from the warriors here. I guess I kind of looked at that as like, have you ever heard about how that stuff, like over in Asia, people are big believers in like rhino horn and tiger penises as aphrodisiacs? Well, I think they could have kind of played it up the same way, that these guys aren't really doing themselves any huge favors by turning warriors into adrenaline and testosterone. I mean, they're aliens. Ingesting testosterone from humans, that seems extraordinarily unhealthy. I mean, okay, we're just going to let that go at that, but if they'd kind of written it up as just some sort of ridiculous folk belief among these people, and then the deaths of all these people were just absolutely meaningless based on ridiculousness and superstition, that could have been a potentially very nice and interesting science fiction taking a real world idea and playing around with it. But here they don't go with that, and it's to me just disappointing. Now they do kind of redeem things there at the end, with the Doctor realizing, like, oh crap, I've turned this girl into a hybrid, and there's this prophecy about a hybrid. I may have just made things really, really bad. And this also there was also that little nod back to how the 11th Doctor could apparently speak baby. Now, I personally thought that was just the Doctor being a smartass and pulling nonsense out of his butt. But here, the 12th Doctor shows, no, apparently not. Also, apparently, babies are extremely poetic. And did you notice that one bit where the baby was going like, "Mother, you are my world"? And then it turned out the baby that was saying this was the daughter of one of the guys who the Doctor was training. The guy, he even takes her. We even see him take this baby to where they keep the eels. So apparently this baby must really, really dislike her father, because he is not a part of her world. I mean, don't babies usually react positively to both their mothers and fathers? I mean, I've certainly been around babies who are pretty jazzed to see their dads. And, yeah, I don't really have too much else to say about this. The Doctor defeating the aliens basically through means of, hey, back off or we'll post this embarrassing video of you on the internet. I mean, that's certainly a very modern moment for our times. It's kind of nice, but at the end of the day, it goes back to what I said at the beginning. There's some nice moments, and there's Macy Williams, but these things together do not make for an especially good episode of Doctor Who. It's an episode that has its moments, but ultimately, to me, is kind of disappointing. Okay, guys, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe, and of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.